Welcome everybody. It's the last lecture for this year, for this semester, and I think it's I'm really happy to have Katy with me, and I think the topic is really fitting to the general situation you are in right now. So we are very well aware the crazy situation, and today Katy is my guest, our guest here, and she's an architect. But not only that, she's also on a transition, as she said by herself, and running now a lab which is between agriculture, culture in general, and architecture. She's living on a farm with her family and trying to bridge or integrate or weave in the principles of permaculture into architecture. And I think it's very interesting to hear, some of them who just worked with me already, is that there's a notion also in our teaching that there might be a time where architects are not building anymore. And I think this is a great example of Katy doing exactly this kind of transition and the work, and to talk and listen to her work as an architect and on her way, on a more regenerative way of doing architecture without maybe doing architecture. So welcome, Katy. I'm really happy to hear your story. And the floor is yours.
Thank you, Florian, for inviting me and for the very nice presentation of myself. I have prepared some slides, which are quite many, so I hope they are interesting enough to keep you alive. I hear you are in the last part of your semester, so let's get started. I will shortly talk about the office where I'm working. It's called Peer 2. In Norway, we have started the office, or the partners started the office for 30 years ago. We have office in Trondheim and in Oslo, which is the capital of Norway. And I've been a partner in the office for like 15 years now. I am been involved in very many of the projects. I also been leading the office for in two different periods. So this is just a sample of what we do. We have landscapes architects, interior architects, and regulation architects, urbanism, and a huge interdisciplinary team. We do a wide range of different of building typologies. So I would just show you only a little selection of the projects, which are probably more distinguished because they have a more ambitious profile regarding sustainable architecture. I guess everybody in the room is aware of how construction sector is responsible for the different emissions, energy use, and greenhouse and material recovery. And we as architects have a strong sense of responsibility of the resources we're working with. So in every project, we try to do whatever it's possible to in order to make more sustainable architecture and environment. So these three projects I will shortly talk about are probably in front of other projects, both in Trondheim and Oslo, but also in the office, which is some of them we have the opportunity to experiment with solutions with our advanced in terms of sustainability. This one is an office building. It's called Nina for ecologists, actually, working there, which had a very, very much ambition of doing good with the nature, though. So this is the first passive house in Trondheim. It's the largest building in CLT, and we explored a variation of solar shading to achieve shadow into the facades, but also to make interesting zones between the working offices and outside recreation places during breaks. In Oslo, there is a project called Future Built, which is a pilot project aiming to show that it's possible to be net positive through making pilots. It started in Oslo, and now it's in the 6 main cities in Norway. This year it's about to be in Trondheim. But this was our Peer2 first Future Built project, which was about 50% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions from energy, materials, and transport, meaning that we had a lot of conscience about what materials to use both inside and outside. And for instance, the facade is 100% recycled aluminium. This other one is our ongoing project in Oslo. It's called Tårnkvartalet. It's an education building, which is composed largely from reused materials, especially bricks or tiles, and sustainable source timber, which is a huge issue, at least in Norway, because we have so very many forests. I will come back to it afterwards. The interesting thing here is that it's a very flexible structure, which means that it's possible to reassemble and assemble again regarding the use of the building and the evolution over time as it grows and evolves. So these are like our most ambitious projects regarding sustainability. Just shortly, with some numbers, because there is this national climate goal in Norway, as in everybody and as in every other country, I guess. But here is it says that by 2050 we have to reduce. Norway is going to be climate neutral, and it should be a reduction of 95% of greenhouse emissions. 95 to 100% material recovery. So it's an ambitious plan in quite a short period of time, I mean. So this one, the green one, is this ambitious Future Built projects, and this orange is showing industry standard, like conventional buildings. So in the end, or by 2050, we're supposed to meet all together in a very ambitious, climate neutral goals. Meaning there is a way forward, but there is only few projects that are able to be very ambitious in the beginning, and the other are moving quite slow. Transitions towards sustainability involves technological and social, behavioral, institutional change, which are really needed and in an urgent way. The pity is that it's still in architecture, the impact is very much related to individual buildings, and we need a systemic approach and a design methodology which accompanies or that follows the goals or what we have to achieve as nations to be where we want to be in 2050. So my question is, how can architecture transcend its narrow designing role and become a socio-ecological tool instead? Like go beyond the building as an object, or especially an individual building, but move towards a more systemic approach in the future. So my own transition is moving, as Florian said in the beginning, from building hardcore probably building industry to regenerative practice, which in the beginning I think it's more in my search at least to understand who is place, meaning nature and people, and designing as well processes and buildings. My first start point, probably I didn't mention before, but I'm from Argentina. So I moved from Buenos Aires to the countryside in Norway, probably like the opposite way of the global trends, which people are actually moving from this countryside to the city. So as Florian also explained, I'm running a farm with my family with the principles of permaculture and regenerative agriculture. And when I do explore ecology in practice every day, I want to translate these principles to architecture. So this is also part of my research. This is where I live, in the middle of Norway, actually, surrounded by river, fjords, and mountains. I will talk about 3 projects, my own in the end, which is the development of a living system lab at my place. I will talk a bit about the Stokea and Bygda Tunnel project, which has been a peer-to playground and where I have been very much privileged to participate during the years. And Uppdal, which is a mountain region, which I've been very much involved the last 7 years, probably. So the first place is called Stokea. It's in an island in the north, as you saw. This is a really small place, but with a very ambitious client who owns the place. They were farmers, like for very many generations. And he wanted to come back to his place and make it attractive also for others to live there. So this is kind of an ecosystem. It's been developed like for 20 years now. And I will tell a bit of how the process was since I started working at the office in 2004. This is the model, which was actually my first task. So I have like an emotional value to it, and also because after these years, Roar and Turid are also my friends. They're really people connected with their environment, fishing and farming, and highly valuating the nature around them and living in an impact with the nature as well. It's creative people and very visionary. So we've been lucky to have them as clients and accompanying them, sustaining the local, their identity, community, and environment. They have huge ambitions and pillars like nature, architecture and design, food, and experiences, culture and art, and meeting places. Their vision was to make a place, as I said, which was interesting both for them to live there, for their children to raise, but also for creative people attract to the countryside, where this is like everybody, like everywhere else in the countryside, we experience a brain drain, and the creative or like more foreign people probably is leaving the countryside towards the city. So they wanted to create an ecosystem to attract people. And they started developing some cabins because it's kind of the vitamin for their place. So the first we did was to design 30 cabins in a plot where they were very compact and respectful to nature in terms of fundamentation, size, and how to place those cabins between each other, so every cabin will have the view and the privacy, but it will be very compact. And the search was to have second homes visitors, but with a more interactive or more interesting relation than only tourists. So the first thing they did was to make a bar where people could meet and eat from the resources of the sea and from their own farm. So this circular thinking, it's been with them the whole time. And there is something to say about them, which is they didn't compromise. Like they were like really compromised less, how to say, like they wanted us to do our best, and it was up to us how to manage the economy. And most of these projects are being built like next to nothing budget, because they were starting up, but the ambition were like just we decided exactly what to do with resources. And it's been very playful and a very nice project to co-develop with them and co-design with them. So they wanted to have a high quality and international attention, so it could be a destination which attracts people from all over the world. So they did a very nice place to like a hostel or hotel, and with a lot of care of nature, and every intervention is carefully thought and designed to fit perfectly and with less footprint as possible. But also like a playful architecture. So this one is actually my favorite project. And they were been very aware of people needing people, and they're making possible meeting place also after 5. So it's going to be, it should be interesting to be there and nice to gather with other people. So formal and informal meeting place are always been a target for them. And after a while, it came the Big Tunnel, which is in English we can translate it to Village 2.0, because they were how do you say, they were like very sure that the version of the Village 1 didn't work that much, because there is a reason why everybody's moving to the cities. So what we were working with was kind of bringing this micro urbanity to the countryside. Even if it's a few people, it should be a place for concerts and to have this culture and art to still have these urban qualities and nature qualities by living in the countryside. So it's a holistic approach to sustainability regarding materials and architecture, but also in research and education. So this building here, you see, it's called Big Box, which is a hub for meetings, but also an experimental architectural piece, because we were based on identity and tradition of the fisher. This is the bacalao, how do you call it in English? Like these typical fishes of the Norwegian coast that they dry up. You see the structure. So how to make a twist between the identity of the place based on tradition, but with a new way of building, of course. As I said, always the budget was next to nothing. So here was about looking after what we had available to build. So this was a building which was demounted in the same time in Trondheim, and we got all the materials to build the Big Box, which is this hub. The other interesting thing is that we're working with the half climatized zones, which is like less expensive to build, and it's rougher in its expression, because it's supposed to be a lab and a meeting place and a multiple functional room for whatever the need was. So here the idea is that very different activities has taken place, like for instance a brewery, bakery, how to say this, carpenter place. So there is kind of what is functioning by the moment, and when it's already up and go, then it will scale up and out and become a part of the ecosystem. So it will attract more and more people to live and work there. So it's a very interesting place to develop this village. Also, it's a office hotel, so people with visiting or owning the cabins could come and work here. It's always full, and it's like super nice to sit there and work with the internet connection and different people's doing different things. So it's a co-working space that works perfectly, especially during pandemic and after also, because it started with another rhythm of weekdays. There is also a bakery which won the Norwegian National Prize last year of the best bakery in the whole Norway. So it's amazing the quality. There is a pair of Italian people which moved there to make their bakery, and they are now based like the all year round. So this is the project which is when people is moving to the countryside, they needed housing, and also interesting housing, not just a housing that it's been there for ages and expensive to rebuild, or not interesting, but also again here trying to have some urban qualities into the housing in the countryside. So this is like again working with this recycled glass, which was, if you remember, from the building that was put down some years ago, and working again with these half climatized zones, which are like this less expensive square meters, but with increasing the functionality of the house, which is very compact in order to make it, of course, not so expensive. So the qualities are like the gardens in the upper plateau connected to the road, and just fishing if you want from your own terrace to the sea, or having a bath or a kayak in the middle of the day. So by the time being, it's only 4 of them which are built. It's this in this side, and 4 more are still to come. So here you see the structure, like different sizes of houses to have some kind of variation, but everyone with the same principle. So there is also playful with colors and materials, and here you see also these half climatized zones, which has the stairs and the connections to the climatized part of the houses. So here people is bathing all year round and kayaking, and having both qualities of urban and rural long days. So this connection with the exterior and the interior, which is like it's very rough out there. It could be like very windy or rainy, but beautiful at all times. So this transparency is really making the impression that the house is bigger, even though it's very compact in the planning. So a micro community takes shape. There is more houses there. There is 3 more which are now in building process, and it's going to be another cabin project to the right here, and we are at the moment developing like a regulation plan for the last site of Bygda. So the effect so far is that 10% of the population in the place is there because of what it's been done at the Bygda. So all these people you see in the pictures are being attracted to what is happening in the village. And from being a place where everybody will move to the cities, it's transformed to be a place where people come back or emigrate, and it's full of optimism and it's a very, very nice and international creative community living there. So these are the clients, Roar, Turid, and afterwards Ingrid came also. They are sisters. So they've been working really hard to develop and sustain this social infrastructure over time. So these are the questions they have. Is there another and better method of thinking about the rehabilitation of local communities and value creation in district municipalities? Because in Norway there is or probably in every else in the world. So what are the transfer values we could learn from here? This ecosystem thinking and this kind of helping each other in the circular thinking, smart solutions, and holistic approach to sustainability in order to make the countryside attractive again for different communities around the world. So now I will tell about the project. If you remember in the beginning, this is in the mountain. It's called Oppdal. There is a ski resort here, and ski resorts are very much attracting a lot of people, and especially a lot of cabin people or second homes visitors, I mean. So this is one of the few on Hemsedal, Florian, which we've been visiting last summer. The few places in Norway which has the other people is moving to these places, not from these places. So here we won a competition for making ID or a very early sketch of how a building like a office building could look like in the city. So even if we won, we invited, at that time I was the CEO and I wanted to explore what is it about. We were supposed to learn how to collaborate and not to compete. So we won the competition, but we invited the young office established in Oppdal to collaborate. So this is a Centrum in Transformation. Here is the plot. They were taking the main road from the middle of the center to in order to make a more interesting center of the city. And they placed before the building came, they placed a little square for children, and this one is the only place which was left in the planning for public use. So this is our plot. I'm bringing this project to you because it's not only succeed this history, it's more like a painful process and a lot of frustration because there is being a lot of decisions made without involving the community. And in the end, I will just go through what happens in the beginning and in the end, and how comes architects being outsiders, even if we were collaborating with the locals, how is it that we kind of miss the opportunities of bringing together people and place in early phase of the projects? So this is the concept. I will not use very much time on it, but it's like the plot was really long. It's like 90 meters and 13 meters in the other direction. And the program was offices mainly, boutiques or shops in the first floor, and a climbing tower, which was supposed to be the highest in Norway. So we did this concept of the very traditional barns, which you see in every place in the countryside in Norway, and based on local identity, try to build a mountain. So the huge climbing place inside will be also a place to be outside. Once we thought we take the very best side of the city, then we should try to give something back to the inhabitants, so everybody could be there and use it. So our main idea was to make this mountain very attractive, both as like climbing and cycling, and just as an amphi or to play or whatever the activities during the year should be. So this was one of the early visions of the how the connection between the building and the place should be. And we did a lot of drawings trying to convince people that even if they did have a nice place or playground for children, it could be better if it was connected to the building. But it was massive protests, and in the end, they didn't want to make this construction, but they didn't want to have it as it was before we had the building. So this was one of the how to say, the frustrations we as architects had, not being able to connect the place, the building, with the public space in front. So it felt more like an amputation. The other thing was we were working a lot with traditional materials, again, like looking at the tradition, but with a new identity, or with a new contemporary way of putting materials together. So it could be identity creating expression for Oppdal, based in tradition, but with a new look. We did a large, how to say, account, or how to say, when we did like a check after material in disuse, because there is a lot of timber and old houses that are not used anymore. So it was sufficient to build the whole building like in a new way as well. And we proposed to reuse all this old timber from the old barns, like to build the new building office. But and we came quite long. We did all the detailing, and we kind of were really enthusiastic about it. But in the end, the entrepreneurs didn't want to take the risk. They said that it was going to ruin their machines or whatever. But the thing is that probably it was more expensive and more work to do it that way than to buy new materials. So in the end, we managed to have a palette of materials, which was also built in tree. So it wasn't the worst thing, but I think this is one of the things should be changing quite soon, especially when there is a public client back the buildings. So actually now this is the things in construction are changing quite fast. So now it's supposed to be easier to reuse the materials and to have this mapping in early phase of the project, as we did, but probably a bit too early. This was in 2017. The other part of the building is the mountain. We use the inspiration of the climbing to make the identity of the facade, and we worked with the concrete, connected the inside with the outside, and this was sandwich elements which were established, were of course built in a fabric and transported from like 2 hours. And every element, I think it was 15 tons, so it was just like a three-dimensional puzzle to make it perfect. It was no margin for error here, and also because it was too tight, the construction, so it was really like a challenging design. And here is the one thing that illustrates perfectly well why new approaches of system thinkings are needed. do you see the same as I see in this construction site? There is huge amounts of concrete. I think I had the nightmares with this concrete building, because in the middle of the process, there came a report saying that we had to take care of the flood for 200 years. So there was two things that we had to change in while we were projecting already. And if you see, do you see where I'm picking with the arrow? No? Okay. If you see the detail into the right, this is the 90 centimeters of concrete in the bottom. And you see in the picture the amounts of steel. And this was supposed to make that if flood come, the building would not float. So it's even if the tower is extremely heavy because of all the concrete elements, we needed more concrete to not let it flow when the flood in 200 years will come. Also, this 70 centimeters high wall all over the first floor was needed in order to prevent water to come into the building. And this is something that I was just, we were trying to find creative solutions, find different ways to do things, or we just used a lot of time to try to kind of giving another round of design, but it was so impossible. And the time in the construction is like you have to do it and it's ready, and you have to be ready in 1 year, and it's no way to stop this. So it's just like, okay, I suddenly was the responsible architect of this huge construction place, and I had no chance to interfere with the amounts of concrete or steel being used. So this actually gave me nightmares for a long time. Concrete nightmares. But, in the end, nobody sees what is below the ground. And the building is an energy class A, which in the district, it's quite okay. People is happy that they produce their own energy. And yeah, now the building is taking in use and everybody loves it. The interior, it was made with a very bottom-up process, which we enjoyed a lot. And all the offices were designed with the people who was supposed to be working there. So this is like a very much flexible and a nice area to work. And it's very popular for cabin people and visitors, which are working there for also as a co-working space in weekends and holidays. So it's been, now it's built, and it's very much a liked part of the city center of Uppsala. Despite all my frustrations as an architect. In the meantime, I'm aware of this top-down contra bottom-up processes, and I've been traveling a lot to Uppsala and getting more in contact with locals and the community. I started to work with the projects which were involving stakeholders, and taking a look at how these cabins are being built all over the place, and ignoring the soil and ignoring all the levels of the landscape, but just making a tabula rasa and put it like objects pretty much on top. So this is a strategy of building sustainable alternatives to traditional cabin construction to reduce their environmental impact. It was three workshops with a lot of people involved, from construction, the political people, the administration, and visitors, and everybody was trying to find better solutions of how to build these second homes in Uppsala. So this process was parallel to I was like in Uppsala like every week because of the construction, and working parallel with this very much bottom-up strategy building project. We did different sceneries for different types of cabins. the urban cabin, the one kind of trying to support the farms which already exist, and just a few of them which were supposed to be built on top of the mountains. So we're working with sceneries based on what people self wanted to do. So we're pretty much changing our role of designers to be co-creators of whatever the development of cabins should look like in the future. We use the BRIM communities, which takes the focus of the object, but put it into the system, including landscape and ecology, social and economical governance, resources and energy, the use of areas and ecology, and transport and mobility. This is one of the the pilot projects of this strategy, which we designed as well, and it was based on reducing the footprints of the cabins, being very gentle and subtle with the landscape, very gentle also in the fundamentation, no concrete here, and only using materials which were from the area. We based these cabins in common shared places, so not everybody needed to have their own skis or their own stuff, but they could share, and also sharing a common house to house different events. This is like how it looks like after finished, and what we found out here is to move from A to B, we didn't have any kind of data to relate. So the benchmark were really difficult to say, okay, we're going to do less of this or more of that, but we didn't have any measures to kind of, yes, we're doing better, or we're doing less, or we're taking more care of nature, or it's not going to be so, the bird life is not going to be so disturbed because it's not any measure from before. So kind of revealed of a lack of data. The other project is a Living Lab Uppdal. Living Lab, I think probably you are at least some of you familiar with the concept. It's Living Lab is more related probably to urban places, but there was no Living Lab related to mountains. So we present this project as and we got some funds to develop an ecosystem of actually sustainable leisure. Just taking out the focus of only cabins, but looking at also even more the mobility and all the other systems involved into cabins and leisures. So this also was co-creating workshops with the stakeholders, where we use like 3 different methods to kind of come from the analysis or the status quo to making a vision of how this ecosystem should look like, and to experiment and evaluate in the end. We use backcasting as a method. I don't know if you are acquainted to it, but you kind of envision alternative futures together with the stakeholders. So you make like a vision of the future, and then you go back and work from where you are now to develop what you're dreaming on. So it means that all these ideas are coming from the participants of the Uppdal, and the idea also is to make it available to everybody, like to the general public. So to make this ecosystem visible, so people will like with ideas could connect to other people with other ideas and try to make this ecosystem more alive, connecting different projects and making it more or stronger because of the connections. and not a competition, but just supporting each other. This has been functioning quite well. Many of these things have been already established. So here the people moving back to Uppdal, there is a hub into the innovation center, which is called the building I showed you in the beginning. And there is a lot of things coming up from not only this project, because it's people who already have a lot of ideas, but to making this visible and available to everybody means that people could connect easier and have synergies and win-win from each other's projects. So one example is the visit strategy, which is a tourism strategy for Uppdal. And now they have this kind of workshop or stakeholder getting together muscle functioning. So they will, people will sample there and they will discuss values or what they want from a future. So they are like very much trained into discussions and to working with sceneries and being active participants of their future. So they are very aware that they have to play the cards smart, because there is a lot of tourism in the area, and it goes like against the qualities of why they attract the tourists in a way. So nature is suffering the consequences of more and more people. So they're very aware of what they should do in order to be prepared to what is coming. So this value creation and also healthy business and a holistic approach again to sustainability and to empower local actors to be a part of this co-creation projects that are appearing. So this is a very inclusive process. Also, like I've been helping to facilitate 4 of the workshops. And it was also a very huge digital portal to ensure that people who wasn't in the workshops physically could say their meanings digitally. The source project is, just to make it short, it's like an Interreg European project which cross the boundaries between the Norwegian part of the mountains and the Swedish part of the mountains. So it's a transnational project which are kind of looking at the same subject, cabins, more sustainable way of building cabins with the restoration of nature, nature-based solutions, circularity, and so on. And here I have the responsibility of regenerative tourism. And my responsibility is to activate the regional potential and create network, which are regeneratives in terms of connecting the place with the people, and in a regenerative economy as well. So this is an ongoing project, which is super interesting. In sum, all of this, my work in Uppdal, it's being for me very tempting to join this interdisciplinary team of ecologists and landscapes and biologists in the one side, and in the other side sociologists. We're going to start a project which is called Common Ground, or it's already started, but this is where I'm going to start on the 1st of September my PhD, which is going to be about future-proofing, Norwegian leisure, and working with regenerative rural communities in architectural approaches. So this is very ambitious project, which we are going to study the trends and patterns and develop national strategies for aerial use together. We are going to test concepts, which is a very hands-on research project. It's not only papers. And we have two cases. Uppdal is the one, and the other is another municipality. But we are supposed to empower these municipalities in order to take decisions which are convenient for them and not only business as usual. So this is a super interesting, ambitious project. I'm going to use my 3 years ahead to deep dig into this thematic. So landscape and planning is the one thing we are going to take a look at, of course. Restoration and nature-based solutions, and this is mainly of biologist and ecologist responsibility. And the sociologists are going to take care of conflicts and processes. There is a lot of conflicts in terms of the use of area in the mountains. And I will be in charge of architecture and trying new solutions like a biophilic design to promote well-being, life cycles analysis, circular design, regenerative design, and modern human and restoration. And we're going to work very much close to human stakeholders and try to really come with alternative solutions which haven't been tested yet. The cabins represent kind of a perfect framework because they are like it's kind of easier to see not the cabin as an object, but the cabin as a part of a complex systems. So it's going to be politics involved, and this toolbox for the futures are supposed to be the result of these 3 years of interdisciplinary work. And well, I'm very excited to start now in 15 days.
Thank you so much. Do you have more charts? Because we are now at 7, so we have half an hour for some discussion.
Yes.
But also including discussion and our like small discussion. So I don't know how long.
No, this is going to be super fast. Like if I have, I will just rush over for 5 minutes. This is like GNIS. This is also bottom-up projects in the district. We are designing processes with the stakeholders. So I will just click forward. This is a challenge-based design process. And we're just to show you how we work, how I've been working with stakeholders and developing different methods to get closer to the people and to understand the needs in order to make innovative solutions. So this is a old process, fast people, bringing people together and understanding what they have as a need and how to use the resources, both physical and intellectual, of the people and places. So here we collect these personas related to the landscape, and we made different kind of housing solutions to the different people, collecting typology with geography. So this is just an interesting design process involving very many actors, and in the end putting it together in the same kind of ecosystem thinking as I showed you in the other projects. So how to design not from women to women. That was the main empowerment of women, so they will be attracted to live and come back to their places. And this is about this Master of Advanced Studies we are sharing with Florian in the ETH Zurich, studying regenerative systems. Again, in my search of combining my practices as a farmer and as an architect. So this is pretty much what we are developing, and co-creating together with Florian and some other CAS companions which we are enjoying and learning a lot. So this is just to show very fast how we do in the same time learn and use the tools. We are, I think Florian mentioned that you're also using these circularities and 8 scales of circularities. So these are very much, the next steps is how and when to intervene in communities. And we are learning about social network analysis and implementing at the same time. 1,000 trees were planted at my farm. And yeah, this is some of the activities. And the next is experimental building with earth at my place. And this is a quote for you. You can read it if you want.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
So
Thank you, Katy.
So just to let you know, we're just probably jumping into a few questions before we open the floor for you, the audience here. I think it's...
Are you still there? Are you sleeping? Or
so we can't see you, so it's like...
We're here.
Oh, so good.
That's great.
Thanks.
So yeah,
Thanks for being there.
So you're just like, in a second, the floor is yours, and you're just very welcome to ask a question, just as some to... Because I think it's very rich and also shows a lot of, especially for I think the second year who was working with these 8 scales graphic. Also, like in the last chart, you showed how you can use these 8 scales on a practical basis, like you did it as a design tool, and also just to come across and use it as a mapping tool for just bringing every kind of insights you got via your talks or also via the research on the place. What I find very interesting also, besides like it's beautiful like to see the whole process and also coming along so many things I heard from the students. So what can we do as an architect? As you also sharing that there are situations where you're just not able to do something, even if you want, hardly, like you just shared with a concrete nightmare. But to see how you just moved your focus from looking at the building and the scope of the building towards more starting with the community. And because I think when I just got it right, there was this kind of concrete nightmare, which was also like the turning point of saying there was also the community, which is not willing to take this first approach of this mountain thing. And they're just opposed. And then they have the client, which also said, no, we are just going with the business as usual because we don't have time. And then that you then stepped out and that you're now on this more like starting earlier with a community, because then it's probably more likely that you have at least like the acceptance from the community itself. And it probably will be more likely that it will happen in the more regenerative, sustainable way. Is that kind of true?
It's totally true, I think. And also because I've been also challenged in this kind of switching the role, like of being an expert and knowing what to do to intervene in a place. And even if we invited this office, the local people, to collaborate, it was a lot of friction and it was a lot of tension. And so this kind of sometimes not knowing or just let it be in order to more innovation, to give more place to innovation. I think it's a exercise we architects, at least practicing from a while, should really do. And this is what I've been training a lot with, being a facilitator more than an expert in a way, even if I have my expertise and it's needed, but co-creating and leaving place for resources among the people to come up, it's very important. And also because if they own their decisions and their dreams, it will be more sustained through time. It's nothing imposed, but it's going to grow with the place.
Yeah, that's also brings me back to the discussion we had with Bill Reed. He also just jumped out of and said like, okay, architecture is an acupuncture point, but it's the community and the place we are talking about, because this is more like the regenerative area, because the building itself can't be in any case sustainable. It can be a little bit less harming, but that he's like the same that you're doing also, like this kind of shifting towards the community and also saying that the value is coming from them, also talking about what is the place then, like the example you shared from the small houses, the village on the beach, right? Where you said, okay, once it's more attractive, people are coming from the cities and it's moving into rural areas, and they bring their ideas and their also their businesses with, and then it's thriving. So I think this is a very interesting thing, especially like drawing back to the studio work you are doing, and how can you work with communities, not only with a focus on I think this is a perfect example of saying it is architecture, but it's so much more at the same time, because it is like a point where people want to live and they're coming and they're talking about, and it's like something which is attractive for the global community. And while you're just building a community, an ecosystem, which is growing by itself, even if you're not there. And that's a very interesting point, I think. Having said this, so I just wanted to open the floor, and of course, Billy, you are also like, you just jump in with your question. But I think now, students, that's the next 20 minutes are up for you, because we are just want to hear your question, because that's a very concrete example of how sustainable architecture could work or not work. What I would love to hear is like your experience in this, which we can't really dive deeper into so far. So maybe you can just elaborate a little bit more on the process of how you brought in the people. You just showed it, it looked beautiful, all this mapping, but maybe there's something in it also to learn, because I think it's not so easy to just stand in front and say, hi, I'm the architect, let's talk about your future ideas.
No, that's a very, very, very good question. And this is very much about the weaving as a role as well. But we are totally depending on local people to put these people together. So we collaborate also with the local Näringshage, it's called. It's kind of like a startup connecting network. So they will put us in contact with the locals, and we are just very much depending on them to put these people together. Because
they know which are the best to talk to, or how is it?
Yes, and also because they are, of course, locals, and they know who to invite and when, and how to bring up the right people in a way to the table of discussion. And in the beginning, it was like, no, you shouldn't talk with this academical language. We didn't nearly dare to say sustainability because it was like scary or something. But after a while, it's just like it's just a part of everybody's language, and just to bring it down to we did several workshops, and we always do it with the gadgets in a way. So we make models, or we try to engage by doing. So it's not going to be just scary, but it's just easy to jump in. So we've been working with the layers of the landscape, for instance, or with the little models of the cabins, or just to provoke and to start moving things with their hands. Like modeling is very important in order to shoot the conversations.
That's highly interesting. So, and what do you think is so I think everybody's busy, probably. So what is like in there for them that they will even come to these kind of workshops?
Yes, that's well, there is always some food involved.
That's helpful, yes.
Lots of coffee and some sweets. No, but the thing is that they see in the beginning, probably we were a bit like more skeptical, but when they see that things are moving and we come back every time and we show back to them how the development of the different projects or whatever we are projecting or developing shows up, because they can recognize themselves, and we're very aware of putting this in marks, like if someone has said something, it's going to be cited in their work, so people recognize their own voices into our work. It's not pro forma or pantomima, it's real. We're really trained to listen to what people has to bring onto the table. And we are very aware of being loyal to the process and put it down into the paper and show it back. So these iterations of, we're talking about this design triple diamond, is super important to make people trust in us and trust in the process. That it's not the waste of time, but they're being really taken care of and acquainted. So.
Loyal to the workshop, you said?
Yes. And building trust, relations is super, super important.
Building trust, yeah.
So it's nothing we do to manipulate anything. It's just really a genuine interest of hearing what people has to bring to the table. And it's highly interesting because it's things that probably we don't, because we are not locals, we don't know.
Yeah, that's also on many levels interesting, because it's coming interestingly not from this genius side, you have the best idea of all kinds. It's more like being very humble and silence and opening the floor. So I think this is very interesting as an architect also to just build up this skill.
Yes, and also because you sharpen your sensitivity. And when we have kind of a palette of methods, we use very different methods depending the theme and depending the community and depending on the target. For instance, the women project I just rushed through. I mean, we developed a daily book. So it was about
like a diary.
Like a diary, exactly. So it was 10 days interactive with their phones. So we will send them questions, and they have the time to reflect and get their answers. And their answers could be a picture, or it could be a sentence, or it could be a snap or a film or whatever. It represents best their feelings.
10 days. Everybody has like 10 days for
10
reporting?
days.
Oh, great.
And we were asking like, tell us about your everyday life, or why do you like to live here, or tell us about your fears, or whatever. So it's like designing these questions and these methods to understand people and understand place. It's super important, and I found it really interesting because it kind of appeals to creativity in other ways. Just how do you come in contact with people, establishing a conversation with the total unknown, but building trust so they know that they are not going to misuse their data, but this is warm data, like properly. And it's very interesting to come under the skin of the people, and like usually when you have a workshop, then it's always going to be one that has a hard pen and it's going to put their like louder voice or whatever. It's more dominating or whatever it is. But when we were working with these women leaving the countryside to the cities and not wanted to be there, then we understood we had to appeal to something else than a workshop.
Yeah.
So this designing processes, I think it's as interesting as us designing buildings in a way.
I have to write it down. Designing processes.
It's kind of the foundation of at least what I've discovered the last years.
So yeah, I wrote it down. Perfect. So still the floor is yours. If you have some questions, please raise your hand and voice. Otherwise, we're just going on.
Isla Michelle. We have no questions.
Okay, that's also fine. So
Fine.
then let's just lay back and relax.
I understand.
Yeah, it's like late in the day. And what I also, it's maybe a slightly different question, but I have two other questions, like very practical ones. The one is like, as you said, like I think 95% of reuse, which comes to the questions, how can you source this? And also the one building you showed saying, okay, these they don't had any money at all. So you were responsible of bringing also resources, and you found this whatever place which you can just like, yeah, put in like in a box and just transfer it over to the site. So where do you come across this kind of knowing? Because I think this is like the most time consuming. Is it also part of the community that you then hear, somebody has some wood there, or there's a destruction there? Or how do you come to these existing resources? I guess there's no data bank or no portal about this one.
Well, now it's changing because now it's very many platforms of reuse on different.
Are there?
At least they're popping up. But in the beginning, when we started, I think it was more like being awake, because when you have the time, in a way, it's like, okay, what we can use, and it appeals in a way, at least the farmers' creativity, because farmers are always using what they have. They're not throwing away anything. They're just reused and used in different creative ways. So it's kind of he being a very visionary and open-minded farmer was very aware of what it could pop up. And we as architects as well, we are in contact with the construction and demounting. So we were always like, okay, what can we use? It's more like when you make a dinner and you don't make the list and go to the supermarket, but you open what you have in the kitchen and then you prepare something with whatever it is you have already. So this is a very different starting points as architects, like before, at least, we were very used to describe a project as we wanted to. Like, it could be whatever, and then we just, why not this one or that one? Or...
And how did you experience this kind of process, the design process of saying whether you're just following your idea and you can just bring it everything you want because or you can build everything you want, or knowing that you have like certain constraints about the materials you have right now? So is it like more heavy to do so because you have more constraints, or it's even like the opposite and it's coming up that burst of creativity?
Well, I think if I understand correct your question, I think this this kind of material restriction, or taking a look at what we have, it shoots the creativity in other directions that not necessarily are constraining. I find it probably the other way around, because it's even more interesting, I think, to okay, what can I do with this one? But also it's regarding a lot with how do you think architecture in the program ways, like holistic way of doing architecture also is to make flexible structures and work with the climatization of the places. So if we wanted life to happen in whatever life happens and evolve over time, then we think more like frames, with different temperatures, and not very much like shapes or like a very defined program ways of thinking architecture. I think this combination of making spaces which are for all use, it's easier to combine with the way of thinking that is a frame, and then once you have the structure, you can cover it with whatever. Like not being the facade, this so strongly determining how a building should look like, but the other way around, or like growing together in a way with the program and the structure and the materials.
That's very interesting because it's probably totally different than we are used to do it. So
yeah, I think it's a different approach, and I think also it's a muscle to train. This because this location is in the island. How do you call it when the boats will be eliminated or destroyed when they're not in use anymore? Like a cemetery of boats. I don't know the English.
I have no idea. No, don't even know the German word, but
Huggery, it's called in the boat huggery in Norwegian. But it's like just 2 kilometers from their place. So this is like a treasure search for us. So like from time to time we go there and like take a look at what is going to be demounted of the boats. I have like designed a bakery that's not built yet, but 100% designed with the materials I found it in a boat. All from flooring, windows, everything. So, and this is like for me, it's like it's super exciting to design this way. It's like it's not like, okay, I have an idea or this is going to be like this, and then I will see how I can build it. But it's the other way around. I start with a place that the boats are going to be destroyed, and this window, so it's like, okay, how can I shape a place or a space?
But it's probably also slowing down the process, right?
Yes, time is key. It's a key. I mean, it's like you should count with time. Time is a resource as well. It's not like if you are in a rush, probably it's not that easy. You should kind of these iterations, because okay, you measure and then you go back and draw and go back and measure again, and probably you have some needs. But also the ambition of the client, because the Ingrid, which commanded the bakery, I didn't show it it's not built yet, but she wanted the bakery to be super beautiful, and she said it doesn't have to be chubby because it's reused. I don't want this kind of aesthetic either. It's going to be super nice. But so she had very much high ambitions, even with the recycled materials, and I think we will see more and more about it now.
Hopefully, especially like the combination of having like a high standard of design and culture, and not seeing that they all look the same, like these typical shape or reuse things, but having like an own way of highly standardized, like highly quality buildings and visuals.
Yeah, I think not compromising the quality because they're already used, like still having high ambitions in order to in terms of aesthetics or quality, architectural quality. It's super important.
Thank you so much. There's like 2 minutes, but there's one question which we probably we can't tap into it. It's like, because it's like another field. Maybe you can just raise a question for this, or just point in which direction you're working on, because the combination of architecture and permaculture, I think it's woven in your talk and about like slowing down and growing together and also listening. I think this kind of like our principles. Is there something you want to just bring in here as like the last thing, just as an open invitation to explore, or is it something we should make another call about?
Well, of course, also because I love to talk about permaculture and this integration, but I think what permaculture brings in is us as designer being a part of the system we are designing. So this is so important in order to, like, for instance, we are also nature. We are not outside. This is like no boundaries kind of thinking, and it involves you as a designer, but also as a part of the system you are designing, and together with other people as well. So it brings like this ecological ecosystem thinking into it, which I love, and it's I think it's like so rich, and it's the potential also, because permaculture, it could be whatever as well, like and also very much I think stumble with the aesthetic. But I think if one could see beyond the aesthetic that the permaculture is stumble with, I think it's a lot of potential there to think regenerative also, because it's kind of the starting point of a regenerative. The permaculture people were probably the first ones to talk about regenerative principles. So they're so interlinked. I hear a squirrel. I have a squirrel, like
living with you in your house.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks to you. I hope you're still awake there, and that you have a nice summer and nice end of semester. And any question that can pop up afterward, I will be pleased to answer.
So much.
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks. And bye. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Nice summer.